Kamusta mga kabibib? Andito na naman tayo para ipresenta ang mga naging highlights sa pagdinig sa Kongreso tungkol sa MVIS at PMVIC kahapon, Wednesday, February 10, 2021. Pero unlike sa hearing sa Senado na lahat ng senador ay hindi pabor sa PMVIC, medyo may pagkakaiba dito kasi mahahalata mo kung sino yung mga congressman na talagang suportado sa PMVIC. At hahayaan ko na po na kayo mismo ang umalam kung sino-sino ang mga ito sa video highlights na ito. Kaya naman, huwag na natin itong patagalin, simulan na agad natin to.
We go now to the next agenda on the PMVIC, the private two House resolutions filed. One is House Resolution 1408 and another one, House Resolution number 1532.
Yes, in behalf of the other members of Congress, co-authors of this bill, of the view that we need to suspend the number of PMVIC's advocates. I'm referring to DOTR and LTO because the first batch of PMVICs that were given the go signal being 138, they have not maximized their operations until today. So we believe that they should first be given the chance to prove to themselves that the first 138 can render the kind of operation and the expectations given to them by the DOTR, they can perform well kesa naman sa magbibigay na naman ng panibagong bilang ng mag-a-aspire pa ng MVICs nang wala pa tayong kaukulang information to probably explain how they perform in their respective regions. Ang pagkakaalam ko, Mr. Chair, mga out of the 138, parang ang nabigyan pa lamang ng authority to operate, wala pang 30. Bago natin siguro palawakin yung bilang nila, mangangailangan tayo ng marami pang data and information to better assess these pioneering centers kung talagang yung kanilang operation ay wala ng glitch.
House Resolution urging the Office of the President, the Department of Transportation, and the Land Transportation Office to stop the mandatory implementation of private motor vehicles inspection centers during this period of national health emergency and until further studies and measures have been completed.
For the record, Mr. Chair, I would like to tell the public na hindi tayo against sa batas. This is in accordance with the international standards. But then, I think we should submit first to the yung panahon ngayon na kinakailangan muna isipin natin yung taong bayan rather than the haphazard implementation of the PMVIC.
The reason why I signed this resolution is that I'd like to point out that ito pong mga new centers na to, ang pumili po dito ay DOTR. Hindi po to haphazard ang paggagawa. I'd like to zero in on the 12,000 deaths due to motor accidents per year. That's why we are doing this para po mabawasan yung mga aksidente sa kalye by making safety protocols stricter. I'm actually appealing to the DOTR to fast track already the implementation. Yung mga nabigyan nila ng permit, sana po matulungan ninyong makapag-operate na sila.
Dito po in my district, sa District 2, I have very personal experience as well. Like in 2018 po, ay merong isang 18-wheeler truck na nawalan po ng preno yan along Batasan, San Mateo Road. If you would recall, it was covered by all the media outlets then. Alaga hong it was in broad daylight at may namatay po because of that. And definitely it was not human error. Findings have shown na ito po ay nagkaroon ng failure of the brake of the 18-wheeler truck. So what I'm saying, Mr. Chairman, may namatay po sa insidenteng yon. In fact, I was there 10 minutes earlier when the incident happened. Incidents like this. In fact, in 2019, almost 120,000 accidents due to this mga ganito pong failure sa mga vehicles natin ang nangyayari po at kawawa naman po, and particularly sa mga constituents ko po namatay, nawalan sila ng ama, yung pamilya po na yon. Sana po we could have prevented those things kung nagkaroon po ng maayos na inspeksyon. Hindi lang po simpleng smoke emission testing, kung hindi all the necessary parts of the vehicles that should have been inspected and approved by the PMVIC or whatever business entity would it be, ay mas maganda po sapagkat maiiwasan natin ang aksidente at maiiwasan natin ang kamatayan ng ating mga kababayan.
Just a manifestation, Mr. Chair, no? I monitored the hearing yesterday sa Senate, no? And napag-usapan din itong issue na ito. And I understand the concerns of the authors of the twin resolutions. No? But more than that, I also have to relay, no, the sentiments of the affected sectors, no? Yung mga chuper, no, na sa kanila dagdag pasanin na naman itong babayaran nila dito sa inspection na ito, no, na nire-require. But I'm just alarmed because in that Senate hearing, Mr. Chair, no, it was mentioned that there is no legal authority for the DOTR and for that matter to LTO na mag-accredit ng mga centers, no. Nung tinanong ang LTO and DOTR who are these, what are the names of these companies and who are the owners of these, hindi sila makapagbigay nung at least yesterday ay hindi pa nila naibigay, no. I think, Mr. Chair, in the interest of transparency, I hope in this committee now, no, pag nag-report ang DOTR and LTO, maibigay na nila sino ba ang mga interest groups na nasa likod nito. Napakalaking bagay ito, Mr. Chair, no. So ang kikitain dito ay hindi lang milyon-milyon, bilyon-bilyon and possibly trillion. No?
Nung una po, August 10, 2018, nagkaroon po ng programa itong Department Order number 2018-19, an order privatizing the motor vehicles inspection system through authorization. February 18, nagpalabas po ulit sila ng bagong department order, itong 2019-002 revised order and privatizing the motor vehicle inspection center through authorization. Bakit po? Ang Kongreso po naglagay ng pera sa kanila and that is around 11 billion pesos. Hindi po nila nagamit because nagkaroon po sila ng failed bidding. Binalik po nila ang pera. Kaya tinatanong po ngayon ang legalidad po nitong proyekto. Ito po nangyari. Matagal po natin hiningi ito sa Department of Transportation. Ako naman parati pong kasangga nila sa development po because I do believe that there should be a union. Tulungan po ng legislative branch of government and the executive branch of government. Gusto ko lang po ipaalam sa lahat, ako'y kasama rin po ng tinatawag EDSA Carousel at nakikita po natin lahat, no? Gaano kaganda na ang pagbiyahe sa EDSA. Ako na may nagtataka, bakit po sa lahat ng sulat naman ng chairman ng Committee on Transportation hindi man lang sinasagot to respond well to these issues now? Tingnan niyo po, December 11, 2019, makikita nyo sa 7th, pang-pitong committee hearing ng transportasyon po, regular meeting, nagkaroon po ng motion doon. Kasi tinatanong na po natin ang programa nitong Pmvic para sana wag sana mantala, wag pumigil ang programa. Kanya lang hindi tayo pinakinggan. Never responded. Nagtataka ko bakit? That is December 11 of 2019. Last month prior to pandemic. The rest is history. We had ECQ on March of 2020. Ito bang sulat po namin sa December 16, 2019? Galing po sa chairman ng Committee on Transportation. Pag si Kong Egay po ay kumikilos, parati po yan may sulat. And it is duly received by an agency. Ano pong sinasabi ng sulat ito? Sinasabi po, i-inspeksyonin muna natin ang isang Pmvic. Tapos po pag-uusapan natin ang guideline, ang legalidad ng proyekto at lahat-lahat po ito. No? Doon po namin nalaman, nasisimulan na pala itong Pmvic. Kailan po nangyari ito? Dito po sa budget hearing ng September of 2020. Ayan po, maliwanag. Anong ginawa natin? Sumulat na naman tayo sa kanila. Ayan. And again, as a proof of letter, ayan po. Address po yan kay Secretary Tugade and I think Asik Galvante, if I'm not mistaken. That could have answered all these issues now pertinent to legality.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, with your permission, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman, let us have the chairman finish the presentation. Unless you can comment, we cannot have a piecemeal
My
reply
apologies,
to
Mr.
this.
Chair.
Do not allow, Mr. Chairman, anybody to interrupt you because we would like to see this very good presentation on the chronology of events and what you have done for this committee. Please proceed, Mr. Chairman. I move that we continue.
So ordered that no interruption so far while the chair is presenting. So ordered. Now, January 2021, ayan na, naglalabasan na po ang lahat ng reklamo. ang sinasabi natin, bakit po in-implement itong PMVIC? At ang huli pong ginawa ng chairman ay kayo sumulat po sa opisina ng Presidente noong Lunes po. At we will show you the communication to the Office of the President. And that is how this 18th Congress is working. If there are issues, we make sure that we put everything in its proper perspective. We don't want to blame anyone. Rather, we want to support programs of this government, but we do it right. Yan lang po ang hinihingi natin. To avoid questions in the future. Ayan po ang sinasabi ng sulat natin. We are asking for the deferment of the project. Huwag munang i-implementa kasi marami pong tanong at hindi po masagot. At one of those questions that being asked is the legality. May I ask the Department of Transportation, to the legal officers, did you ever ask for an opinion from the Office of Solicitor General pertinent to the project on PMVIC?
On the question, Mr. Chair, if we sought legal opinion, hindi po kami nangingi ng legal opinion, and we studied the legal basis among ourselves in DOTR and LTO, Mr. Chair.
Alam niyo po, nang binabasa po natin itong legal opinion niyo, andyan po ang ating mga Deputy Speaker. You are citing Republic Act 4136, 8749, and all other laws in your Department Order 20019. Hindi ko po makita rito ang authorization, USec Yebra. Now, if you fail to consult the Office of Solicitor General, may I ask, did you ever ask or pass the project to the Office of the Investment Coordinating Committee?
Insofar as the NEDA requirement is concerned, Mr. Chair, we are of the understanding and belief, Mr. Chair, that there's no need to endorse it to NEDA for its approval, for the simple reason, Mr. Chair, that this is not PPP under BOT law and there's no government investment on this matter. That is our understanding, Mr. Chair. That is our belief.
Now, how much is the total project then? And you have 138 units to be rolled out. Magkano po yan? Para magkaliwanagan lang tayo.
At 60 million at 138, Mr. Chair, I think it would cost billions, Mr. Chair.
To be specific, 7 billion pesos yung compression. Or 8 billion. Ngayon, we are going to post now a memorandum circular pertinent to the heads of department. It came from the office of the Secretary of the Department of Finance and at the same time, the Chair on ICC, the Cabinet Committee. Sinasabi po rito, 2.5 billion project cost threshold for ICC review and approval of projects proposal. Maliwanag po yan. At least 2.5 billion shall require ICC approval except as others provided by law, such as but not limited to projects covered by Republic Act 6957 as amended and 7718. So dito pa lang, I'm hoping that we can correct. Kaya ako'y nasasayangan. Bakit man lang hindi nyo pinagbigyan ang imbitasyon at ang sulat ng chairman ng Committee on Transportation for you to be guided well? The legality is very important. This has the urgency really of coming up with a roadmap. I'm very thankful. But the way implementing a project should have been clearly, prudently towards the direction of addressing all concerns before rolling it out, since this entails people's money.
I really appreciate your work in the research, not only in that, but the fact that you were always following up with the agency concerned regarding this PMVIC. Mr. Chairman, on legality, clearly already, Mr. Chairman, they violated the rules of the government through NEDA and the ICC. Clearly, a 7 billion to 8 billion project clearly falls under this memorandum circular, where over 2.5 billion should be reviewed and approved by the ICC. The Department of Transportation is trying to exercise police power. Police power, Mr. Chairman, in all jurisdictions pertain to the legislature. That is the main primary body that can enact laws to implement police power, which is defined as the capacity of the state to regulate behavior and enforce order within the territory for the betterment of the health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the inhabitants. Clearly, there is no legal basis. In fact, they have violated already the ICC rules. What is their basis? To implement a roadworthiness determination of all the vehicles of our country. In this particular case, I do not see any law that would allow the Transportation Department to implement a general roadworthiness certification and requirement. Mr. Chairman, my resolution precisely investigates this particular project of the DOTR. It is unconstitutional, it is illegal, and should be stopped. You know, there are of course the accidents, probably 12,000 accidents in a year. How many of that is because of roadworthiness or the human intervention? There is always an accident when drivers are drunk, are addicts, and speeding. So, Mr. Chairman, I am really very, very concerned about this because this is usurpation by the Department of Transportation of the power of Congress to legislate and to be able to pass measures on police power. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
What I can feel now is that we are making a pre-judgment already. Are we here to already castigate the LTO and the DOTR? I thought we are hearing them out, Mr. Chair. This is the reason why you called for a meeting. But I'm holding my judgment, Mr. Chair. I am not making a pre-judgment. We are not supposed to until and after we are able to ask them questions and let them clarify. This is still the part of due process, Mr. Chair. We need to hear them out, Mr. Chair. I think in the Senate yesterday, I believe they were unable to explain themselves. If somebody begins to answer their questions, they're being cut and interrupted left and right. So I wish they can be given the chance to speak, Mr. Chair. I think
This is the venue for them to explain clearly. What I was just telling was, had they followed the wisdom of the chair, all of this could have been addressed. But now I'm still giving the hope that they can justify, because we need this project, clearly. But it has to be done in such a way that it is acceptable to the rules and regulations of government, with the net effect of helping the riding public. That's all, Deputy Speaker Marcoleta.
Yes, with all due respect to my esteemed colleague, Deputy Speaker Dante Marcoleta, I am speaking now for two reasons. Now, I am rising not because in defense of the chair, but I think the chair has definitely the plenary authority to speak for what he feels, not in a tenor of judgment, but to clarify matters that should have been placed in a proper perspective. But then may I reiterate our position on this particular matter, that I am for the suspension, or at least to stop first the implementation of the project of the Pmvic for two reasons. Number one, we cannot implement a project that is incomplete based on, in fact, their implementing rules. They have provided that it should be at least about 138 initial sites. But as of now, they have authorized only 23. And how can those 23 possibly accommodate more than about 10 million vehicles? Placing, therefore, in a blatant violation of the Constitution, how can you imagine that some of the vehicles have been placed under the mandatory inspection when in fact some other place have not been operating under the new setup? Clearly, under the Constitution, no person shall be denied equal protection of the law. For example, malinaw na na-dilute ang power ng PATC under the GOR. Nawala na yung PATC. And yet, in some other LTO sites or offices, nag-ooperate siya. So where's the equal protection of the law? Second, wala pa yung product identification or standards ng DTI, and yet, there's already this rolling out of the project. I would like to reiterate that we're in compliance or we are in adherence with these international standards on roadworthiness, but not this pandemic time. Aba naman, sisingilin mo na, wala na nga trabaho, wala na nga makain, may 1-8 ka pa. Pwede naman natin implement yan later. Pero sana sabay-sabay. Hindi ba natin naiintindihan yun? I mean, kung mag-implement tayo ng project, dapat complete sa buong bansa. Hindi lang yung ilan.
Yung una po yung legal basis po, ayon po sa aming humble understanding po ng batas, at kami naman po ay nag-i-implement lang ng mga ipinasang batas. Nakita po namin under the LTO code, yung Land Transportation and Traffic Code, specifically RA 4136, yung nabanggit nga po ni Congressman Marcoleta, na ang LTO po ay may power to examine and inspect yung motor vehicle para ma-determine yung kanyang roadworthiness. So ito po yung isang unang legal basis na nakita namin. Tapos sumunod po, under the Clean Air Act po, po, nakalagay po doon sa Section 21, may mga requirements po and emission, specifically at expressly binanggit po yung MVIS. Maisama na rin po natin, Mr. Chair, yung charter po ng DOTR under Executive Order 125 na ipinasa noong panahon ni Presidente Aquino, which has the character of a law. Sinabi po doon na ang DOTR ay may kapangyarihan na tumawag ng private and public agencies or organizations to help them assist in the performance of their function. So, ito pong mga batas na ito po, in the totality, yung aming pong pagkakaintindi is sufficient basis para po maituloy po itong programa at masuportahan. Kaya po yun po yung ibinigay namin sa aming legal opinion na supposed mga legal basis. Doon naman po sa pangalawang point na ni-raise po kanina, Mr. Chair, whether bakit hindi yun na ipasok sa BOT law, again, yung aming pong simple understanding ng batas, yung pagkakaintindi po namin, hindi po kailangang idaan sa ICC, sa NEDA, sapagkat hindi po siya saklaw nung tinatawag na Build, Operate, and Transfer Law.
Can you cite to me what is stated in article in Republic Act 4136, the land transportation, that will give you specific powers? Because we cannot have, implication or implied powers. This is police power, and it should be clearly defined in the land transportation code that would say that that the government giving to the private sector. The government already has this MVIC, because we pay inspection fees when we register in the LTO. But if you give to the private sector, who will be collecting 1.8, and this will be billions of pesos going to the private sector, that's a different matter, because it is not already the general welfare of our inhabitants of our country. All of us, all the 12 million vehicles and 12 million owners will have to line up and to pay 1,008. So we know what is this legal basis that, according to Mr. Yebra, has authorized them to go into a roadworthiness given to the private sector.
For paragraph 6 of RA 4136 provides that the Commissioner of Land Transportation or his deputies may at any time examine and inspect any motor vehicle to determine whether such motor vehicle is registered, unsightly, unsafe, overloaded, improperly marked or equipped, or otherwise unfit to be operated because of possible excessive damage to highways, bridges, and culverts. Yun po yung nakalagay sa Republic Act 1436, Mr. Chair.
So do you see there, Mr. Yebra, that you're allowed to further delegate this to be able to have private sector investing and getting 1,800 from our people?
Under the Land Transportation Code, wala pong nakalagay doon that the LTO or the DOTR for that matter may delegate or may assign or transfer such function. Ang basis po na ginamit namin is yung aming charter po, Executive Order 125 signed by President Aquino, na kung saan ang DOTR po ay authorized to call upon any public or private agency or organization or office to assist in the performance of its functions. So yun po yung naging mga, kumbaga, whole of legal system approach na pagkakaintindi po namin, may sufficient basis po kami.
To answer that, Mr. Chairman, the executive order do not give any legal fiat to be requiring that to have all the vehicles that will be inspected. That is not so. Now we go now to the Clean Air Act, because I do not see here any authority for you to have this big project that will require our people to pay 1,008 and to have them be roadworthiness inspected. The Clean Air Act is on emission to the environment, not on general roadworthiness of the vehicle. That is why the good Mr. Yebra could not cite the exact provision on this, because it only Clean Air Act is about us, the country, our nation, to have clean air. And how is that? Through emission. That's why they're doing the emission test. But how about a general roadworthiness? That is something that is a different animal, where you will inspect the brake, you will inspect everything of the vehicle, Mr. Chairman. So I do not see at this point any specific grant of the police power by law, because DOTR executive order is only an executive issuance, not by law. Clearly, there is no legal basis to be able to have the private sector undertake a governmental function and then allow the exaction of so much money from those who will be inspected. Now we go on necessity. Is it necessary to have 12 million vehicles lined up in this very few inspection centers? Was there a study? And what is this based? Where is it based? Do we have transportation experts that were invited by the Department of Transportation to shed light on having this particular kind of a project where private sector will now go in and get the profits from this. My point, Mr. Chairman, now the LTO could not give us and cite as laws of these countries that MVIC. Of course, inspection system are always part and parcel of the government, especially those in land transportation and others, that it's part of it, but they do it and they are able to handle this governmental function, not to delegate it further to a private group. So, meaning that there has been no real study. How about what happened on those that are giving private sector? Or is there a law there? Because that cannot just be done by the by the commission or by the department. That is my point on legality. And so there has been no. I cannot see any study that will cite other countries that have allowed all the vehicles to come and be charged 1,800 to be given the registration, Mr. Chairman. So with that, Mr. Chairman, it needs really further study, this particular imposition of the Philippine Motor Vehicle Inspection System. So,
Mayroon po tayong Motor Vehicle Inspection Center at ang may-ari po nito ang gobyerno. Tama po ba?
Tama po yun, Your Honor.
Tama po yan. Dito sa sinasabi mong 14, dalawa na lang tumatakbo. Dati po lahat ng jeepneys, lahat ng buses, doon po natin tinetest kung kailangan itest. Tama po ba?
Tama po yun, Your Honor.
Kaya ang sinasabi mo kung matutulungan kayo, mayroon kayong 4 billion na hinihingi. Pwede po natin ito maibalik sa 14. Kailangan lang po natin ang pera na ibigay muna ang koleksyon ng LTO. Balik po natin doon sa investment sa inyo. Tama po ba?
Tama po yun, Your Honor.
Dito naman sa Motor Vehicle Users Charge na tinatawag, kumikita po tayo ng 18 to 22 billion taunan or annually. Tama po ba?
Pero
Tama po yan. Estimate lang po. Ang sa akin, tinatanong na natin para ang susunod na tanong natin kung tamang sagot, no? Ang sinasabi, may pera naman pala. Pero siyempre, ina-acknowledge natin yung nilalagay na investment ng pribado. Kanya lang inaayos po natin kasi may issue nga sa legalidad. Unang-una po, no, gusto ko lang malaman po ng kasamahan natin, may that been social media or the mainstream media. Lahat po ng reklamo ninyo, narinig na po ito. Kaya dito po sa hearing na ito, may mga tanong. No? Kasi gumastos na po ang pribadong sektor. Kaya naninigurado po tayo habang andito po kami sa tinatawag na legislative branch of government na itong programa po natin, itong proyekto ay nasa tamang legalidad po. Yan ang una munang tinatanong. Ang nagiging issue po ngayon, kagaya po ng sinabi po ng kagalang-galang na Deputy Speaker Rufus Rodriguez, no? Na hindi po nagsasabay at hindi po panihintulutan. Kung sa gobyerno pa lang dapat itong ang nagpapatakbo, specifically opisina po ng Department of Transportation, opisina po ng Land Transportation Office, wala pong tanong tayo dyan. Pero nung pinasa po natin to sa pribado, no? At totoo nga, bawat isang proyekto sabihin na natin 65 million, pero pinagbuo nyo po kasi hindi naman po pwede na sabihin isang project, isang proyekto po yan. Kung ilan man ang investment, suma total, kailangan po natin ang opinion ng tinatawag natin NEDA o ICC. No? Pangalawa po, hindi po nagsasabay-sabay. May PETC pa, may private. Mayroon na pang PMVIC na po na nagsisimula. Paano po natin itutulay ito? So, nararapat lang, no, na ito'y medyo mahaba-habang pag-uusapan pa.
Okay, at dito ko na po muna tatapusin ang highlights ng video na ito. Actually, nagkaroon pa ng mga presentation ang ibang resource persons dito sa Kongreso. Pero halos lahat ng ito ay napresenta na rin sa Senado. Kaya kung gusto mo pa din itong mapanood ng buo, ilalagay ko na lang ang link sa comment at description. Kagaya din ng sinabi ng Chairman of Committee na si Edgar Sarmiento, madami pa ang mga dapat na i-discuss dito. Kaya naman, babantayan natin to para ma-update ko po kayo. Hanggang dito na lang po muna. Sana may nalaman kayo sa video na to. Huwag kalimutang i-like at i-share to at i-follow na rin ako sa FB page ko. Until next time mga kabip, magabang lang at mag-subscribe.
Meeting is suspended. Maraming salamat po sa inyo. Magandang hapon.